Good evening. Welcome to the April 15th workshop of the Oceanside City Council. I'd like to go ahead and ask for a roll call, please, Mr. Navarro.
Mayor Sanchez.
Present.
Councilmember Figueroa. Present. Councilmember Robinson. Councilmember Weiss. Deputy Mayor Joyce. Present.
Please stand for the pledge. Ready to begin. I pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all. Thank you. This is a single subject workshop. It is a workshop on the budget. We all always look forward to this workshop. And before, did my voice just go higher, louder? Okay. Before I say that we have a presentation by Jill Moya, who is our financial services director, I wanted to see if our city manager, Mr. Borrego, has any preliminary comments that he'd like to make.
Honorable Mayor and Council members, thank you for giving me the opportunity to open up the workshop this afternoon. As you'll soon be hearing from Ms. Moya, we're pleased to present a balanced budget to you for this upcoming fiscal year. I did want to make a few comments, though, before we launch into the presentation by Ms. Moya. Obviously, we're in a period right now of a lot of economic uncertainty. There's a lot of things that are going on internationally that certainly have the ability to impact our finances, certainly here locally, looking forward into the next fiscal year. And so, I know council members have heard me say this in our individual briefings and meetings that we have coming up, leading up to this budget process. We're very mindful of keeping an eye on all the key economic indicators, being very mindful of our expenses, throughout the budget year, certainly looking at our expenses and revenues very carefully and make sure that we're on track here. The fact of the matter is the workshop that we're having today is leading up to the upcoming budget, which kicks off on July 1. And given what's happening internationally, certainly there's a lot that can happen between now and then. So I would say things continue to be a moving target. As of right now, things are still looking pretty good for us, but we're mindful of those forces that are beyond our control and have the ability to change the economic outlook very quickly, quite frankly. We do have many levers that we can pull, as we call them here locally, to reduce our costs if it looks like things are not looking so great in terms of the larger financial forecast. And we are certainly willing to do that. We did that during COVID, as you may remember, where we cut our maintenance and operation costs quite a bit across the board in order to make sure that we remain balanced. Of course, we could hold off on a lot of things throughout the budget year coming up if things don't improve economically. I will also say, just personally speaking, I was in this line of business during the Great Recession in 2008 and 2009, so I'm very mindful of getting, what happens when things do take a dark turn here. So we're trying to be mindful of that moving forward, and certainly want to just make sure that council is aware that we're very mindful of what's happening out there and certainly are prepared and positioned to make changes to our budget as we need to moving forward. I would also say that earlier throughout this process, we circulated a memo to council regarding the current state of our reserves. I will say, as was mentioned in that memo, I think we do have healthy reserves, certainly in line with best practices, and we continue to maintain those healthy reserves. I will say that even though, it may look on paper like we do have healthy reserves, which we do, it's important to keep in mind that some of those reserves, including some of our general fund reserves, are set aside for assignments that we already have in mind. As an example, under our infrastructure reserves, we show a current balance of about $60 million. over half that money has already been pre-committed to funding improvements to the San Luis Rey River and the Pier Bridge as well. So while, you know, the memo that was shared earlier does show what our reserves are, what it doesn't really show is what our obligations are currently as well. So, you know, I would certainly not recommend doing anything to tap into our reserves at this point. We don't have the need to, and given all the economic uncertainty, I would not recommend that we consider tapping into our reserves at this point as well. So I wanted to mention that point as well, kind of on the front end of this discussion. Lastly, I just wanted to give a deep thanks to our staff, many of whom are here in the audience tonight, that had a hand in putting together the budget. There's always more asks than we can fund, but I think at the end of the day, it was a very fair process, and I think that you know, we're well positioned to continue to ensure that we're providing great service to our community and the taxpayers, and continuing to make progress in terms of improving the quality of life of all of our residents and our visitors as well. So thank you very much, and with that, I'll turn it over to Ms. Moya.
All right, good evening, Honorable Mayor and City Council members. I'm Jill Moya, Financial Services Director, and I'm here tonight to present the General Fund Operating Budget. We'll start off with, I will start off this workshop with an overview of the city's general fund proposed operating budget. Next, Michael Gossman, our Assistant City Manager, will present the Measure X proposed budget. Then Fred Mayo, our Water Utilities Director, will present the Water Utilities proposed operating budget. He will be followed by Victor Velasco, our Principal Civil Engineer, and Mabel Ueda, our Principal Water Engineer, who will present the capital improvement budget, and we will conclude with the proposed harbor budget presented by Hamid Bahadouri. The first item on tonight's agenda is the general fund proposed operating budget. Tonight, as with previous years, we are presenting a balanced budget where expenses are less than revenues and reserves or one-time monies are not used to cover ongoing costs. This proposed budget meets all reserve obligations, such as the city's Healthy City and Economic Stabilization Reserves. Here is a high-level look at the proposed fiscal year 26-27 general fund budget. Total revenues are $239.7 million, and ongoing expenses are $239.57 million, which would result in a surplus of $130,000. Additionally, we recommend adding $950,000 of one-time expenditures. Of the projected revenues, 3 of the main revenue categories are property tax, sales tax, and transient occupancy tax, or TOT. This graph shows how the revenues have been trending over the last 9 years. Property tax is in blue, sales tax is in red, TOT is green. Here's the breakdown by expenditure category of the current year's adopted budget compared to the proposed fiscal year 26-27 budget. All personnel expenditures include all negotiated salary increases and placeholders for bargaining groups, as well as pension cost increases calculated per the CalPERS actuarial report. The maintenance and operation expenditures include a CPI increase of 2%. The proposed additions include funding for a postage machine for the city clerk, one-time funding to continue the Go Side electric shuttle service, funding for as-needed permit technician services for development services, as well as additional funding for the Climate Action Plan program. We also recommend funding for software upgrades and integrations, as well as the addition of an accounting technician for the Financial Services Department. For the Fire Department, we are recommending the addition of 2 firefighter paramedics, as well as an increase to lifeguard hourly extra help hours to increase beach safety coverage. For the Human Resource Department, we are recommending converting a part-time professional assistant to a full-time HR assistant, as well as the addition of a risk analyst and an HR technician. We also recommend the addition of an information systems analyst who will support the city's expanding technology infrastructure for the IT department. For the library, we recommend the addition of a part-time library assistant as well as one-time funding to replace the automated sorting machine. For neighborhood services, we are recommending the funding of a portion of the costs of the housing administrator position and funding for software improvements and training. We also recommend the addition of a part-time professional assistant for the Parks and Recreation Department to support sports programming and field scheduling. For the police department, we are recommending the addition of 3 police officers, as well as funding to lease 2 drones to continue the drone as a first responder program. For public works, we recommend continued funding for the bollard deployment at the Farmers and Sunset Market, as well as funding for maintenance and security at the Oceanside Transit Center structure, as well as funding for maintenance of San Luis Rey River segments now under the city's responsibility. Additionally, we are recommending the addition of a maintenance worker to support the increased building maintenance needs throughout the city. We are also recommending the addition of a supervising utilities inspector for the Water Utilities Department, which would be funded by Water Enterprise funds. So in total, all of our recommended additions is approximately $950,000 of one-time general funds, $3.1 million of ongoing general funds, $575,000 of one-time non-general funds, and $617,000 of ongoing non-general funds. Here's a summary of new positions recommended for next fiscal year funded by the general fund, totaling 6 full-time positions and 2 part-time positions. And 2 of the recommended positions are partially funded by the general fund, and 4 recommended positions are funded outside of the general fund. That concludes the general fund operating portion of this presentation. I will now turn the presentation over to Michael Gossman, our Assistant City Manager, to go over the proposed Measure X budget.
We do have a question, Councilmember Weiss.
Yeah, just procedurally, Mayor, are we going to do them all in one shot at the end, or are we going to do them individually?
I thought that we could, this is a general fund overview. I thought that we could do the other ones, the other 3, well, I guess 4 individually.
Okay.
This was just a general overview, so. We have questions on general overview? Do you have a question on the general overview?
I do have some questions about the items within the, so is that okay?
Yes, go
Okay.
ahead.
Just want to make sure. Hi, Jill. Thank you. So a couple things, just I want to understand a little better. On the Go Oceanside, it's $150,000. That's not the total operating cost for that program, is it?
The way the program is currently operating, no, because currently we've been able to secure some grant funding. So the idea would to be go out to get some additional grant funding to supplement that $150,000.
Okay. All right. And I do think it's a good program. I think it, I don't know if we have any data on the rider statistics or use, but I think it's a pretty well-used program. I just hope in the future we can continue to work on ways to better monetize the program, of what people pay to use it and how they do it. Question about the well, I won't ask that, I don't think. So on the bollards, that we use for the market, again, another $150,000. Remind me, what does that contract do?
I'm sorry, will you say that one more time?
Bollards, for the.
Main Street?
Main Street.
Main Street, yeah. What does the contract do? It's to deploy them, so paying for, I believe, do we pay Main Street, who then deploys the bollards?
Yeah, Honorable Mayor and council members, no, there's actually a contract in place, and we pay a contractor to remove and deploy the bollards every Thursday for both the Sunset Market and then also for the farmers market as well. But it's actually to pay a contractor to provide that service.
But we own the bollards, right?
Yes, we own the bollards.
We bought them.
Yes. And I will say that on that note, there have been recent discussions with Main Street about them actually directly taking over that service. So I expect that we're going to soon be talking to them about what that might look like in terms of having them be responsible for it.
Okay, I would just encourage that if we do that, that we hold to, that they are being used and that they are deployed in a way that it does fully secures the market and the evening event. Okay, that's all I had right now. Thank you.
Thank you, Deputy Mayor.
Just to follow up on the ocean side, the Go side, we had an email come in from a community member asking about the map and schedule. I don't know if somebody's here. Is Michelle here? If somebody can answer questions about the first year we had it, it had a pretty big schedule that included more daytime use where people who live in the city could use it. And then as we moved to a tighter budget around it, it seemed to more be for tourists because the hours got moved back in the evening. And I think it's great. I mean, I think it's an amazing service. I just remember when we put it in place, we were really thinking about making sure that it was both for our locals and for the tourists. And so with the scheduling change, since it's the most important time to bring that up, I was just saying we should make sure that moving forward, we make that as available as we can for people. Because I know people were using it to get to the grocery store and other things. They can't do that if it's not happening in the daytime. It's only in the evening.
Right, so basically, I want to add here that this is a discussion at Sandag in terms of the grants, and at Sandag, they are actually pushing out new projects and not existing projects. I don't know where the votes are going to go, but it does look like there is a push to not fund existing projects or projects that have already. Now, I am actually pushing out that we have in mind a second Go side, or I don't know if we call it the same thing, in the middle of the city, which would be at El Corazon site to try to get folks moving from, say, the Sprinter to up the road there. So that would be considered a new project. I did ask that. And so it might qualify for some funding, but these are kind of one-time project funding to help cities look into that, and they do expect cities to find ways to support them moving forward. And we have had Visit Oceanside put in, and then also Sandag. So I just wanted to add that piece. Deputy Mayor, did you have another question?
Yeah, I just wanted to make a motion to remove, I see the timer ticking down, so to remove the timer for this workshop since.
Yeah, no,
we won't be
well,
able to
this is
talk.
a workshop, so I'm going to allow us to continue.
Okay.
Did you have another question of staff so far?
No.
At this point?
No, thank you.
Okay. Councilmember Figueroa, did you have a question? Okay, sorry, I thought I saw your light. I'm starting to see lights now. All right, so next is Mr. Gossman, who is our Assistant City Manager, and he will be speaking on Measure X budget.
Yes, good evening, Mayor, members of the council. So as you know, Measure X is the city's half-cent sales tax. It was renewed last by the voters in November 2024 for a 10-year term. This report will give an overview of the programs it currently supports and go into more detail on the changes proposed to next year's. If you have any questions on any particular program or would like more detail, we have staff in the audience available to answer those questions. So following direction received tonight from council, we will take the proposed spending plan to the Measure X Citizens Oversight Committee for approval on May 7th. The Year 8 spending plan continues to provide for improved public safety, homelessness services, community programs, including teen youth programming, and investments in capital infrastructure. Next year, we anticipate net available revenue at $17 million against $21.5 million in expenditures. The difference represents the use of fund balance for one-time or capital expenditures. So just going quickly over the ongoing programs and projects, and as I mentioned, we have all of our directors, subject matter experts in the audience to address any questions, or if you wish to have more detail on any of these programs, please feel free to ask. But all of these programs have been effective at making Oceanside a safer and more livable community. Recent community survey work shows strong support for these programs. The crime suppression team is made up of police officers focusing on reduced crime throughout the city and providing extra presence when and where needed. The Community Services Officer Program also lives inside OPD and continues to be funded at $1.1 million. Youth programming and gang diversion programming of $945,000. That includes a robust grant program to community partners, but also provides funding to Parks and Rec and OPD through the Oceanside Youth Partnership. It also includes $100,000 for the Teens Work program, which historically had been a grant-funded program. Those grants went away, and we saw Measure X as a way to continue to do that work. Homelessness diversion and prevention is a myriad of programs that complement the work of the homeless outreach teams and the Navigation Center. Also included is funding for the Enhanced Downtown Security Program through a partnership with Main Street Oceanside, where there's cost share and they manage that contract. Navigation Center operations, you received a report earlier this year, and we started funding at $1.5 million a year for 75 beds, the Navigation Center through Interfaith Community Services. This funding also supports the Medic Squad and the Enhanced Emergency Delivery, or EMT program. It also supports several capital projects, such as the Pierview Bridge. So far, $15 million has been set aside in Measure X, and $12 million will be put in year 11 of the Measure X spending plan. El Corazon Park Site 1 has had $2 million of Measure X allocated toward construction. Traffic calming includes $500,000 a year until the year 12, when it goes up to $750,000 a year. The city has spent $1.1 million on traffic calming since 23-24. Street restoration sets aside $3.5 million a year until year 14, when it goes up to $4.2 million. The city has spent $19 million of Measure X on street repairs and restoration, and last year spent $2.8 million. That is not all of the money that we spend on street restoration, roads, and paving.
We don't have that in front of us. Can you repeat some of those numbers?
Yeah, so starting at the top, Pierview Bridge has had $15 million set aside in prior years, and we have plans to allocate an additional $12 million in year 11. El Corazon Park Site 1 has had $2 million of Measure X allocated toward construction. Traffic calming gets $500,000 a year until year 12, when it goes up to $750,000 a year. The city has spent $1.1 million on traffic calming since fiscal year 23-24. Street restoration sets aside $3.5 million a year until year 14 and goes up to $4.2 million a year. The city has spent $19 million of Measure X on street repairs and restoration, and last year spent $2.8 million. I would add, though, because it's important to note that any capital monies that are allocated in a given year don't just go away if all of them aren't expended. They roll over into the next year to continue providing, because sometimes capital projects don't line up well with a fiscal year. We also put money aside for police and fire department to purchase equipment and technology. A lot of the software that they use, the newer software that they didn't have before, is paid for through that funding. The Police Training Center has had $5 million set aside, and another $4 million is going into the budget for next year. And it's anticipated that a contract will be let in this coming year. Shoreline restoration for this next year is budgeted at $550,000 and will go up 10% every year for the remainder of the tax. I know this is a lot of numbers. The last one, Safe Parking Program, is a new program funded by Measure X that had historically been grant funded at $150,000 a year. And moving into new programs and projects. So one-time funding for next year for traffic and e-bike enforcement. E-bikes are a new phenomenon that we get a lot of comments and complaints about. And so this money will pay for overtime for officers to help quell those concerns, as well as loud vehicle exhaust is another one that we get a lot of messages. A new ongoing program is the On-Duty Mobile Occupational Health Services for OPD. This is a program to address officer safety and well-being, both physical and mental. We are also, as you know, transitioning from the police-forward homeless outreach model to a more social worker case manager-based model. This is called the Homeless Evaluation Assistance and Resource Team, or HART, and you will receive a full staff report on that implementation on April 22nd, so next Wednesday. That concludes the Measure X budget, but as I said, I'm available to answer any questions, as is a multitude of subject matter experts in the audience.
Thank you. By the way, the public will be able to ask questions at the very end. Right now, we're allowing the council members to ask questions as they come up, so that they don't forget, the questions that they have. And then at the very end, of course, will be the discussion. Deputy Mayor Joyce?
Is the crime, I'm writing all over myself. Is the crime suppression team fully funded in Measure X, or is that funded elsewhere and with Measure X? How does that work?
That one is fully funded with Measure X. It consists mostly of overtime, but also does include police officers that used to work for the HOT, the Homeless Outreach Team, the police facing. They've moved over to that crime suppression team, but it is fully funded by Measure X.
Okay, thank you.
Councilmember Robinson?
Well, I just want to say, one, I fully support the traffic and e-bike. I just want to comment that our OPD, I think, has really stepped up on the e-bike enforcement, and I've seen it out in District 2, out in my district. Fewer, for lack of a better word, takeover of streets. So I appreciate that, what OPD is doing with the e-bike phenomena. And I know you said we're going to get a full briefing on the HART, and we did receive a memo, but I can't, is the HART going to replace the HOT? Is that the plan? Because it's $400,000, so I'm like,
Yes.
What are we doing with that?
So it's replacing the HOT, but it takes the social workers that were part of the homeless outreach team, and they will then now become part of the HART. I can't remember the acronym. So yes, but the homeless outreach team will no longer exist, and now it will be a case manager leading intervention model from the HART. Does that clarify it?
Yeah, and so I'm assuming then that the police chief probably has a plan for those officers then that will be briefed on, or?
Yeah, well, part of that plan, and we will discuss that on April 22nd, but part of that plan is they'll be utilized in the crime suppression.
Got it.
But we'll never have to say HOT officer, which is a great thing.
You went so fast on that there was one other thing. What was it? It was the mental health, what was that? The occupational health program?
Yes.
And I get it, I support it, but I also know across all levels of public safety, while this one's just focused on PD, would there be a move later to expand it, or could we include?
I have great news. OFD already has one, funded through Measure X, so this will be the proxy for that. So
Kind of complement it then?
yeah.
Okay. It's always good to get great news from you, sir. Thank you.
Yeah, no problem.
Can I ask, when is the transition from the HOT to the HART?
We're looking at May, so on April 22nd, we'll be bringing an item to establish the positions that are needed to do that, which will actually be when we will request appropriations for this first year And then once we get that staffed up, we have the space that they'll be utilizing is the old chamber space, and that's being outfitted for them now. So once we get staffed up, I'm thinking mid-May, early June, we should be up and running. Yeah.
So before July 1st?
Before July 1st, yeah,
okay.
yeah. I'm including it here because this is, you haven't heard of it yet. I mean,
Right.
you haven't really been briefed on it yet, but it is included. So I wanted to mention it, but you're going to get a full briefing on it next week
At the council meeting?
at the council meeting, yes.
Great, so
Yeah.
it'll be something. And those numbers that you had that were, not included on the graph here?
Yeah.
Will you have that, will that be distributed after this meeting?
Yes, I will
Okay.
distribute that to council after this meeting.
Okay, great.
Yeah.
Is this going to change the number of social workers that we have through the county, or any personnel that we have through the county?
This will not change those numbers at all. So we
Okay.
we will continue to contract with Interfaith for 2 social workers and a supervisor.
Right.
And we will continue to contract with Interfaith for 2 outreach workers that are currently in the libraries, and they'll continue to do that. So
Okay.
that will not change.
So we have social workers, do we have mental health workers as well?
The social workers that we use are trained in mental health and mental illness and intervention in that.
And I remember there was a program through the county that was more geared towards mental health. Are they still doing that? Is the county still doing that? And does it get to North County?
Yes, it does. We do get, I'm forgetting their particular acronym, but they are in the area.
Yeah, I'm trying to remember the initials.
Okay. NC.
Got it.
NC, yes. And so they, like, our police officers, our current homeless outreach teams, they will ask them to come and help and do interventions.
All right, thank you. Councilmember Figueroa?
Thank you, Mayor. Since we're on the topic of heart, I just have a couple questions in regard to this item. I know that on our briefing it mentioned this new collective will work to ensure a unified, consistent, housing-focused response. Is there housing attached to the efforts of the heart team?
No, it will utilize the existing programs that we have that are funded under both Measure X and throughout the city and throughout the county. So part of that work is to link those individuals up with the resources that are existing out there, but it does not increase those resources in that area specifically.
So it's the safe parking, the navigation center, and working with our other partners?
Yes, yeah.
All right, I just, the housing component is so key.
Yeah.
Just seeing the work that took place along the 78 with the ERF and implementing the by name list.
Yeah.
It was successful because there was housing attached to it. And so that's what allowed us to have so much success in the encampment areas.
One of the things that I think we're working with Interfaith right now, and I think what's kind of exciting about having Interfaith at the Navigation Center, working so closely with our homeless outreach teams and doing the work in the libraries, et cetera, is they're going to start locating more programs on that site. So you'll have the Navigation Center, but it'll also become somewhat of a one-stop shop for a lot of those resources, and I think it's going to be of great benefit to the city. So this is early on, and we're just now talking to them, so I'm getting a little ahead of myself, but I am excited about that because I think that will also bring more housing resources to bear for those individuals.
Thank you. Few things outside of this. I noticed that the e-bike is proposed funded for this fiscal year, but it's no longer on the books after 26, 27. Is that because we're expecting this to be funded through maybe some grant or other revenue sources? Is that why it's not on here?
Yes, the Oceanside Police Department requested one-time funding, and then they're looking to establish a more robust ongoing program that would exist within their current structure. So this is just to get them through that period, and then it'll keep going, but it won't be funded through Measure.
Okay. Question in regards, under the community programs with Parks and Rec, I know we received the email early this afternoon kind of describing the $120,000 that would go to Parks and Recs. Is that mainly for the Balderrama community, given the fact that they are now operating the teen program there?
It's not. This is for, they're still seeking the parks and locations where these programs will be provided, but the teens program is separate and funded through the general fund. So that has ongoing funding attached to it, so that will continue. This will complement that, but it won't be primarily located.
Because I did see, if it's okay for me to share, but
Yeah.
I saw that we had the OSI Friday teen nights, which I think is amazing. And I'm assuming that will be spread out through the different, I'm assuming, locations that Parks and Rec feels that.
Yeah, and I can ask Manny Gonzalez, our Parks and Rec director, to come up and share a little more about that, because I think it's good work and it's part of this budget, so this is the time to do it.
Hey, Manny.
Good evening, Councilman Figueroa and council. So the Oceanside teen nights we're targeting for Melba Bishop. It's a weekly program on Friday nights with the idea to create diversion for teens. And we're planning to work with PD and also using volunteers for that particular program. Some of the other ones will be looking at different locations, such as Mobile Rec, where we're looking at Libby Lake and potentially some other places where we do not have a recreation center.
And will the mobile rec, will that be only for the summer, or is that's year round?
No, it's a year-round program.
Okay. And then the teen nights will be just for the summer?
The teen nights is during the summer.
And so is that OUSD summer, or is that June to, like, what is that time frame?
The time frame we're looking at is the OUSD summer.
Okay, and it's 6 to 8, 6 to 9, what?
5:30 to 8:30.
Okay, all right. And then I think that was it. I did see the deep sea fishing. I'm assuming that's like field trips associated with some of the programs, or who would get to be a part of the deep sea fishing?
So we're primarily targeting our teen program, but it's open to the general public as well.
Awesome. Thank you, Manny. And I think that those are all my questions.
All right, thank you.
Okay, Deputy Mayor?
Did you want to go first? I just don't want to, if you're going to explain something, I'll go after you.
Did you want, I thought I heard you say you wanted to
Yeah, I'll
talk
just,
after all the questions.
yeah, I was going to provide, I had some additional details I can share on GoSide, and then also I wanted to talk a little bit more about the HEART team and how that's going to transition, so I can do it now or after, it's up to you.
Yeah, go ahead. Okay, I'll go first. Because there might be something that he could answer that you say.
Awesome, thank you. Thank you, staff, for, I know these are a lot of complex moving targets here. So I had a couple questions about Measure X specifically. The first one is, in our ballot language, it does mention habitat restoration, and I haven't seen us, from my recollection, spend on that in the first 8 years. Do you know of any program that is doing habitat restoration through Measure X?
Aside from the shoreline restoration, no. And I don't believe it was part of the ballot for the first 7 years. I think it's only part of the new
newest
ballot.
one. Okay.
So we have not programmed that. It's an eligible activity to program.
And so technically, is anything ineligible to be funded by Measure X?
Technically, it's legal for any legal municipal purpose.
Okay. So then just kind of talking a little bit about what Councilmember Figueroa was bringing up with the youth programming. In the first 5 years, there wasn't funding put into the youth and community programming. And then so folks have been advocating it for a while. And when it finally did get in, the language we used around it was prevention programs that can target at-risk youth at risk of gang involvement and help reduce the number who join gangs, intervention programs and strategies that provide services for younger youth who are actively involved in gangs to steer them away. And it also included language that said we'd be working with community-based organizations. So I just want to kind of flag this for my colleagues and put the question out to make sure that we're remaining focused on the purpose of this funding. And it's hard because it feels like, of the of the 20 in the plan, we're kind of scrapping over 1 million, right, in the youth program, which is tough. But to really make sure that we're serving the kids in our city that are really intended to have this, I think it is important that we protect the community-based side of this program, as it is one of the only ways that we do spend money on community-based programming that really gets to where the kids are at. So I'm flagging that, I guess, for my colleagues, so maybe we can have a discussion at the end when it's an appropriate time. Yeah, and I can leave it there.
Right, and Mr. Borrego's going to say some things, but I'd like to first start off by making sure that we understand the Measure X, the first Measure X, which I think, I'm trying to remember, Peter was here? Yeah, I think he was, right? Yeah. So the at-risk youth part of it was as a result of the surveys and, with respect to public safety. And so one of the things that we pushed out and that I definitely made sure that it got pushed out was doing it with respect to at-risk youth, and it was put under public safety. So there was no distinction between who was going to do it. It was, and working with community-based organizations, we were talking about neighborhood-based organizations. It was not a nonprofits per se. It was working with existing community organizations, or if there wasn't any, then certainly it would be the city doing it. So we basically for me, I really wanted to be able to ensure that we had after-school programming for at-risk youth. If we could, at the site, at the neighborhoods that they were in, if there was such a setup where there was some kind of a place that there could be a meeting place, that kind of a thing. But I don't recall anyone saying, oh, this is going to be a place for nonprofits to get involved. It was truly addressing the population and not so much how it would take place. Certainly if the city wasn't able to do that, expand to do that, then certainly it would go out to see if there was anyone, a nonprofit that could do it. At the time, I believe we had Vista Community Clinic doing several of these programs. At Joe Balderrama, it seemed that we had a history of Parks and Rec doing that, and so the community asked that it be Parks and Rec to do it. We did have both Parks and Rec and Vista Community Clinic reach. So just a quick reminder that we now, we were able to move the Project Reach program over to John Landis, where there was definitely a need, and then have the Parks and Rec absorb the programming at Joe Balderrama Rec Center. And it looks like it's doing well, but it wasn't meant, in that situation, you see Parks and Rec was able to do it. And traditionally, as one of the first few parks that the city had, that's how the city did it back then, was through a Parks and Rec programming. So then that, just to respond to that. Mr. Borrego?
Honorable Mayor and Council members, thanks. Just wanted to clarify a couple things. So I did actually find out, just to give a little bit more information on the Go Side program. I was able to connect with staff. So the current hours of operation are Wednesday through Sunday from 2 p.m. to 10 p.m. And there was a cutback in service hours due to the cut in funding. And so what we tried to focus on were those periods of the heaviest usage, and that's how we arrived at those hours. And so right now, in addition to our city funding is also being received by Visit Oceanside, the Cultural District, and then also the Downtown PBID. So there's a number of organizations that are currently contributing to its operation. I also wanted to mention with respect to the HART team and the transition to the HART team, just for everyone's knowledge, so the crime suppression team is actually, they are currently, so to speak, the boots on the ground that support the homeless outreach activities. So we don't really expect that big of a difference in terms of those individuals that are assigned to provide the police departments and of supporting our homeless outreach services. It'll just be more a social service front-facing group of individuals, but they will actually be physically sharing space as well in the former Chamber of Commerce building, both the HART team and the crime suppression unit. So there will still continue to be close collaboration when it comes to servicing our unhoused populations. So I just wanted to point that out as well. And again, as Mr. Gossman mentioned, you'll hear more about that at our next meeting when we formally present the program for your consideration. And then one other thing that I wanted to mention with respect to the funding of youth programming, the City Council may recall that as part of our cannabis program, we also do have cannabis tax revenue that we expect to receive once those businesses are up and running. And it's, certainly I believe this council's intent to use some of that revenue to fund youth-oriented services, particularly those services that are involved in steering kids away from drug usage. So there will be a future funding stream as well that could provide an opportunity for some of our partners to continue to provide those types of services, specifically to preventing drug use amongst our teens. And we expect to bring a recommended spending plan to you in the near future in terms of how we would suggest that pie be carved, so to speak, in anticipation that at some point, it still will be, I would say it'll probably be at least 2 years down the road before we see any sizable revenue from our cannabis businesses. But I just wanted to mention that that is something to be mindful of as well. There's always a large need, of course, to fund youth programming, but there is another potential funding source on the horizon here that we'll be talking about shortly. Thank you.
Deputy Mayor?
Yeah, sorry, this is just a really important conversation, so I just want to try and clarify my comments. Our current proposed budget for the community programs includes increased programming to the library program and the Parks and Rec program and the OPD program, all of which are, I think, awesome sounding programs. My reason for bringing it up is that I think they probably belong in our general fund because they're awesome programs that should continue that are housed within the city. The language on our website says city staff are working with community organizations throughout Oceanside to partner with programs that feature a mentorship component with the goal to divert Oceanside youth from engaging in gang activity and drug activity. And I think that part about having mentorship and relationship building and the ongoing nature of those programs with individuals in our community, it's critical to them actually serving the purpose of diversion and having that impact on the communities that we are really trying to invest in the most. So I'm not asking for anything to be eliminated, but I do think for that program to do what we intended it to do, we would want to shift that over to the general fund and then continue to use the money on community-based programs for mentorship.
Basically, we didn't have the money in the general fund, which is why we came up with trying to include it in something like a Measure X. It would be a tax. But as to habitat restoration, I did want to add here that this is something that is going to be absolutely critical with respect to the San Ray flood control project, because the city is on the hook for doing a habitat restoration project that is close to Bonzel as part of the project that is being required as well at the state level. I don't know how the state got involved, but we are supposed to address it to the point that the state is satisfied, and I believe that's about $1 million project. So, thank you.
Yeah, thank you. There are no more questions for me?
Nope.
Okay, then I'll hand it over to Fred Mayo from our Water Utilities Department. Hey, you're right there.
Good evening, Honorable Mayor, City Council members. Fred Mayo, Water Director, and I'm going to go over our operational maintenance budget, proposed budget. Our guiding principles to establish our budget is to remain in compliance with all state and federal regulations and mandates for drinking and wastewater conveyance and treatment. Affordability for quality water at the lowest possible price to be delivered. Work with the reduced water and sewer rates amidst inflationary pressure on all phases of treatment and maintenance activities. Major cost drivers are chemicals, energy, projected water increase purchases for the Mission Basin groundwater purification upgrades, and staff costs. Just for a little perspective, polymers that were used in their treatment process are expected to rise 20 to 25% because they have some petroleum-based products. Off to the water operating proposed budget. Revenues are projected to be $110 million over this next fiscal year. Expenditures are projected to be $109,034,000, leaving the water utility department with a $970,000 surplus. There's a $10 million delta asked for this budget year to pay for raw water and treated water from the county during the Mission Basin water treatment plant shutdown. In our sewer operating proposed budget for 26-27, revenues are projected to be $74 million. Our expenditures are at $52,069,000. With the transfer over $11 million to transfer over to our capital projects, leaving us with a projected surplus of $9.5 million. One of the few assets we are asking for this year is, that was brought up earlier, a new supervising utilities inspector. This is going to give the city a higher visibility, more eyes out on the street, on our CIP projects and infill projects. Moreover, it gives us a career ladder for our current staff. It gives us, it's more aligned with city standards and industry standards, and we have excellent internal candidates. It's a really good opportunity for us to have all the infill and capital improvement projects that we have. Lastly, our solid waste and recycling operating budget proposed for fiscal year 2026-27. Revenues are projected to be at $2.43 million. Our expenditures are at $2.38, leaving a projected surplus of about $50,000. That concludes the overall operation and maintenance budget. I'm here for your questions.
Thank you. Anyone have a question about Councilmember Robinson?
Thanks, Mayor. Not so
About
much
utilities.
a question, but a comment. I was very pleased when you addressed the supervising water utilities position and your comment about internal candidates. I really do think we have some great employees here at the city, and I appreciate you recognizing that we do have a great internal candidate pool, and that as a director, ensuring that your personnel are continual to improve and be ready to fill those higher level positions. So thank you.
Thank you.
I did have a question. I know that you brought up during the briefing that I had that moving forward, we will be needing to rely on buying water at some point, more water at some point through the Water Authority, because we'll be transitioning. Could you talk about that briefly?
As far as the additional purchases of water, when the Mission
Yes.
Basin, when our desalter plant goes down, we're projecting it to be down for about 24 months.
24 months?
Yes, and to make up for the water we're not extracting out of our aquifer, which is the cheapest water we can make, because we don't have to pay for the water that we're extracting out of the ground other than the treatment process. We do have to make up that delta between what Mission Basin is not making and what, so we have to buy the surplus water.
Thank you.
Sure. I can give you a little more highlight on that too, if you like. The cost on those, it's about $1,000 per acre foot untreated water, and it's $1,500 an acre foot for treated water.
Thank you. I guess the next, anyone else having a question on the utilities, non-CIP budget? Okay, thank you.
Thank you. I'll pass it over to Victor and Mabel.
Oh, did you do? I'm sorry.
Okay.
Deputy Mayor?
Trying to follow both call. I just wanted to notice that it is a very tight budget. So I appreciate, that's partly because of the decision we made to not fully increase the water rates last time. And so I know we'll stay in close contact about how that's impacting service, or if it is, and what we need to do moving forward. But I appreciate the presentation, and we have a lot, you're doing a lot of work.
Yes, we are.
Replacing things that are, at best, you'll notice across the city that nothing changes, and this is kind of what we're talking about, which is the best case scenario, right? We have water pressure, and that's a great thing. It goes underappreciated, but thank you for all the work.
Appreciate it. Thank you, sir.
Thank you.
Okay, it's Victor and Mabel's time.
Good evening, Honorable Mayor, Council. My name is Victor Velasco, Principal Civil Engineer with Development Services. I'm here to talk about the Capital Improvement Program, fiscal year 26-27. The proposed CIP totals approximately $141.7 million. It includes ongoing, annual, and new projects. The program is focused on maintaining infrastructure, delivering active projects, improving safety and accessibility, and investing in community facilities. The program is funded by Transnet, SB1, Developer Impact Fees, Measure X, and is complemented by the general fund. This slide here shows the distribution of the CIP funding by source. It excludes the enterprise funds. Developer impact fee revenue continues declining, and it's also very unpredictable as it is tied directly to private development. In addition, recent legislation has also affected the amount of fees that are collected on an annual basis. What this causes is an increased reliance on the general fund. The CIP is organized into 5 programs as shown on the slide. I will go briefly through each of these ones. Transportation and accessibility represents about $44 million in investment and is focused on pavement, ADA improvements in major corridors such as Coast Highway. Traffic safety includes crosswalks, signal upgrades, and traffic calming, with about $7 million in investment. Drainage focuses on storm drain infrastructure and addressing flood-prone areas, totaling about $11.3 million allocated for this fund, for this program. Parks and recreation includes park improvements, lighting, and trails with approximately $27.3 million. Facilities is the largest program with $48.9 million and includes public safety facilities, libraries, and energy efficiency projects. One of the key focuses this year is in continuing to move projects that are already under design or in construction or near completion, along with ongoing our annual or along with keeping going our annual programs. Overall, the program reflects a strong and balanced investment in infrastructure, safety, and community improvements. While this is a strong program, there are still significant unfunded needs due to limited funding and declining revenues, which will require future prioritization. Staff is available for questions.
Thank you. Do we have any questions from the dais regarding that presentation? Councilmember Figueroa?
I just have a few more like detailed about certain projects, starting with the crosswalks in South O on Whaley. I know that's still a current project. Where are we with that project as far as like the funding needed? I believe it's still in the design phase, I believe.
Councilmember Figueroa, thank you for your question. In regards to that project, it is currently under design. We are actually designing that one in-house, so it is moving along, the one at Whaley and also the one at Loma Alta Creek. So there's two crosswalks.
And the Audubon system also with the one on,
And that one also.
and so, oh, go ahead.
Councilmember Figueroa, Honorable Mayor, City Council. Brian Thomas, City Engineer. In regards to all the crosswalks, with respect to the two on Coast Highway at Whaley and at Loma Alta, we're nearing completion on that. We're looking to be completed with the one at Loma Alta in late 2026. The one at Whaley may take a little longer just because of long lead times for the particular items we're looking at. The Audubon crosswalk, we're still finalizing the study. It's a complicated look. There's a lot of moving pieces with that particular area.
We don't have his exact location, correct?
We don't have that completely yet. And then once I finalize that document, then we will be having a final discussion with the city manager before we bring it back to council for review.
Thank you. So for clarification, for fiscal year 26, 27, we're looking at just design, correct? Or is that are we looking beyond design and actual implementation, just for understanding of the community?
For the two crosswalks at Whaley and the dip at Loma Alta, we're looking to construct as well.
So this fiscal year, we should.
This calendar year.
Yeah, this calendar year.
This calendar year.
Awesome. Thank you.
You're welcome.
I know that we also have College Boulevard on here. Is that also the design for the widening of College Boulevard?
Victor?
Can you repeat your question,
We
Councilmember?
also have College Boulevard, part of this year's capital improvement budget. Is that for design of College Boulevard? Is that what we're looking for? That as far as for community expectation?
Yes, we are currently sitting at 60% design with that project, and it's moving along. So this year, it will continue in design, fiscal year 26, 27.
And that's widening College Boulevard from Old Grove all the way to Waring, correct?
Yes, that is correct.
Okay. And then also, I noticed that for this, there's two design projects, one on Vista Way, I believe on right before Rancho Del Oro for a streetlight, design of a streetlight, and then another one on Rancho Del Oro right behind Palisades Park and Crystal McAuliffe Elementary. Those are just for the design of a streetlight, to implement streetlights on those locations, correct?
That is correct. Those two projects have funding for the design of it, not for construction.
Okay, I just wanted, just for community clarification. Thank you.
Thank you. Deputy Mayor Joyce?
So one of the projects that was worked on and completed this year was the lighting at Prince Park. And there's been a lot of feedback from the community that they're not bright enough. And there's shadows from where the lights are. And I think if you're walking, it may be less of a problem than if you're skateboarding, like vertically, where you can't see exactly where you're landing. So is there funding still available from last year's funding that was put aside for that to add lights if they need to be added for safety purposes? Because I think it was built under, like, way under what was proposed for it.
Yeah, funding is still available, Deputy Mayor Joyce. I just got confirmation of it.
Okay, so we'll be able to finish that one to make sure it's safe, and then there'll probably still be some savings after that too. Okay. Do we have a quick build program? So we have a lot, I mean, Councilmember Figueroa was just talking about several projects that get designed out and then have a full-scale build. Do we have a program that does trial runs or quick builds for traffic calming?
Deputy Mayor Joyce, to answer your question, not that I'm aware of at the moment. It's something that we can definitely look into.
Okay. All right. Thank you.
All right, thank you. So now we are at Harbor Budget Overview. And we have Hamid Bahadori, Public Works Director. Oh, no, we don't. We have Mabel.
Hi, forgot about me. All right. Good evening, Honorable Mayor Sanchez and City Council
Oh,
members.
yes, water, sorry.
Yes. All right. Try to make it fast. Mabel Ueda, Water Engineering Manager. Tonight, I'll present the Water Utilities Capital Improvement Program for the proposed fiscal year 26-27 budget, and I'll briefly cover the 5-year investment plan, key projects, funding strategy, and what to expect as we move very actively into our construction phase. Our 5-year CIP totals approximately $485 million, with about $107 million in water and $378 million in sewer investments. You'll notice a higher spending in the first 3 years. This reflects projects that have been in planning, and now we're ready to move into construction. The main drivers are the 3 priorities listed below. This is not a sudden increase in need. This is years of planning now moving into construction all at the same time. The biggest change is, again, shifting from design into construction. We're advancing multiple major projects concurrently and increasing near-term spending intentionally. And the goal is to control costs, leverage funds by consolidating projects to have the biggest bang for our buck, and then also to avoid costly emergency failures. This fiscal year, we have completed about $11 million in projects with repair and replacement of water and sewer pipelines, treatment facility improvements, and Title 16 USBR grant funding feasibility studies. These projects maintain reliability and also position us to secure external funding for larger infrastructure improvements. Projects that are currently in construction are listed there. They're pipelines, recycle water. What I do want to highlight is we're bringing forward to council next week on April 22nd an amendment to our progressive design build project for about $90 million. Key point is how we're actively managing projects using various delivery methods to control costs. So, and also reduce risk to the city. We also have a strong group of projects moving into construction in the near term. This includes the Buccaneer facilities and also several pipelines, including the Loma Alta Sewer Phase 2, land outfall, 3 major pipelines that will be in Oceanside Boulevard. We're advancing these projects now to lock in prices, reduce risk, and coordinate construction efficiencies. Our total capital needs are taking a very strategic approach. You'll see in our water projects about $300 million. It was more than 60% funded with external grants, federal funding, or a WIFIA water loan. We are actively pursuing additional external funding for our sewer projects. We will be leveraging the WIFIA loan or municipal bonds, as well as grants and reserves to appropriately fund these projects to minimize the rate increases to our ratepayers. Looking ahead, you'll see an increase in construction activity throughout the city in our downtown area, Oceanside Boulevard, and within the easement corridor north of Mesa Drive to our San Luis Rey facility. This is going to be a coordinated effort to phase construction and also work with the public as well as various departments to provide an efficient project delivery. In addition, we're also working on our master planning and asset management efforts so that we can continue to look forward towards the future for planning our capital improvement projects. In closing, the CIP project is a very proactive approach. We're trying to maintain our reliable infrastructure, control long-term costs for the city, and avoid emergency failures. With that, I conclude my presentation and open to any questions you may have.
Thank you. Are there any questions from the dais? I don't see any. All right. Thank you, Mabel.
Thank you. I'll turn this over to Hamid Bahadouri.
Yes.
The Honorable Mayor, members of City Council, Hamid Bahadouri, Public Works Director. As they say, they keep the best for last, so I'm your last.
Yes, of course.
Thank you, Jill.
I was going to say something, but I thought I'd let you say it.
I'll be brief. Before I go through the budget, Harbor's budget is about 12% of the Department of Public Works budget, but we make a presentation because nature of the enterprise funds to make sure there's all books balanced and all that. Before I go through the numbers, I would like to take this opportunity to thank you. Thanks your council and the city manager. About 2.5 to 3 years ago, we were here in front of you. We had a problem. We were barely able to put $50,000, $60,000 into reserve. We had identified about $28 million worth of projects, and we had a deficit of $14 million over the next 15 years. So we rolled up our sleeve and got to work. And thanks to your leadership, to your support, and for city manager's direct involvement, we went almost 9 months of meetings, 7 meetings, about 30 hours. And thanks a lot to the collaborative and partnership attitude of the members of the Harbor Beaches Advisory Committee, especially Chairwoman. They helped us a lot. And we finally were able to come up with a solution, a 3-tier solution. And I'm glad to report here tonight that now we are doing much better. One of the major components of the financial package that we were able to reach agreement with the HVAC and was presented to you and your council approved was the increase in the slip rental to make them more market competitive, bring them up to today's market. Just to give you an idea, the slip rental forecast for this year is $8.8 million. The last 2 fiscal years, they were $6.2 and $6.7 million respectively. So this is like a $2.4 million, almost a 32% increase, which is very significant. The leases have not changed much. Parking is about a $100,000 increase. The other major component is the utilities that we were able to adopt, again, through your leadership and directions from city manager and work with the HVAC. The utilities now, so far the tenants and the harbor have not been paying for the utility. But starting this past January, they started paying. So the utilities, electricity will generate about 177, water is about 123, and the surcharge for the liveaboard is about 18, so a total of about 320. With the increment in the slip rental, it's about a $2.7 million increase in harbor revenue compared to last year. And that is a significant improvement without really inconveniencing the slip renters and still being very competitive with the neighboring marinas. And so the total revenue is estimated to be about 12.698. Last year it was 10.1. So it's about a 25% increase, very significant. And thank you for that. The expenditures, we have tried to manage the expenditures to make sure that the extra revenue goes only for what we promised, so-called Brady improvements, the $28 million package. So the maintenance, which pays for our maintenance crew and our vendors and equipment, material, is about 3.5, similar to last 2 years. Administration is 1.41, pretty much the same as the last 2 years. The MSU, the Marine Safety Units, which is done by the fire department, and thank them for great job that the fire department and lifeguards are doing out there. And then we have a beach lifeguard. One of the other components of the financial package was the cap on the tideland lease, which we have capped it at $840,000. So that expenditure is something that the harbor pays to the city at $840. Anything above $840 will be diverted and saved into the investment fund for the Brady improvements up to $2.4 million or 15 years, whichever comes first. The debt service includes depreciation and the money we are paying for our energy-saving project to Optera now, the new company. So just to put it in perspective, 3 years ago, we were barely putting about $80,000 in the reserve. And I know that some of you, especially like Councilman Wise, is always concerned about that. 2 years ago, we were putting 520,000, and last year we were putting 950,000 in reserve. This year we are putting 2.67. So this is about a doubling of the amount that we can put in the reserve. I hope that kind of addresses your concerns, and it also helps us build that reserve for the future needs. The CIP projects, this year we are going to replace 2 ramps at the transient docks. We are going to repair parking lots 11A and 11B for about $400,000, and we are going to replace the switchgear at Z Dock for $250,000. These are the new CIP projects, the existing CIP projects. We will go to bid for reconstruction of parking lots 1 and 4 next week, and that's about $400,000 total, $260 and $140. And we also have awarded the contract. We took it to your council for replacement of docks R and S. And it's about $3.2 million. We're going through the Coastal Commission permit, and with the construction date scheduled for July 17. On July 17, we are going to start both ramps replacement. Not at the same time. We are going to do S first and then R. So in a nutshell, thank you again very much for helping us, for guiding us, directing us. We are at a much, much better place compared to where we were 3 years ago for the harbor budget. And I'll be happy to answer any questions. And I think this is the last slide, and I'm supposed to read it and say, direct staff to return on June 3rd with the final budget for adoption.
Thank you very much.
Thank you.
Any questions on the dais regarding the harbor and beaches? Actually, it's the harbor. No? Okay. So this is a time to hear from the public before we begin our discussions. Do we have, how many people do we have signed up?
On item number 1, we have 5 speakers. On item number 2, 2 speakers. And item number 4, 2 speakers.
Okay, so what we're going to do is we're going to hear them all together, and then we will be able to take things one at a time after we've heard from all of them.
Okay.
Okay.
So I'll go ahead and activate.
It is really one item.
The first one here. Our first speaker
So
is
how many speakers is all that again?
about 9
okay.
total.
Yeah, 3 minutes.
Yeah, Edward Fitzpatrick, to be followed by Carly Starr, to be followed by Bob Ashton.
Okay. Good evening, Honorable Mayor. Good evening, council members. Earlier today, at about 11 o'clock, I came from the Senior Citizen Center on Club Drive, and I was told by the people who run the Senior Citizen Center there that you're going to be cutting $26,000 out of their budget. Well, let me tell you what that means, okay? I counted about 100 people that show up there for lunch. And this is a place that people go to socialize. This is a place.
If you're talking about the nutrition center, it is not being cut.
I was told by the head woman there that.
No, I think there was a misunderstanding. there was a lower amount from CDBG funds, but it is being taken up by other funding.
So nothing is being cut on Club Drive?
On the nutrition center, no. Is that correct, staff?
And their programs aren't being cut, like the arts
No.
and crafts, or the drum circles, or the computer?
Well, I stopped you unceremoniously because I didn't want you to be.
Sure,
I want you to
appreciate
have,
that.
if you're going to say something, to have correct information so that if you have something else you'd like to talk about, we can hear you.
I
But go
do,
ahead, Mr.
for sure.
Gonzalez, our Parks and Rec Director, to answer his question so that he can better use his time.
Honorable Mayor and Council, so we received one-time funding last year in the amount of $26,000. We requested ongoing funding of $39,000 to account for the $26,000 that we were using for expanded programs and mobility, and the $39,000 also included 13 additional to expand that, as well as to address our responsibilities as part of the agent-friendly action plan. So in respect to a cut, essentially, we are going to be operating with 26,000 less.
26,000 less the senior project?
The senior, our senior programs, yes.
Oh, so there is a cut in 26,000. So there will be cut in services?
Because we're not receiving, we're not receiving the one-time funding that we received in the last fiscal year.
That's why I'm up here.
Right. I thought we gave direction to staff to make sure that that didn't happen.
I understand this is not related to the food program, though. So these are actually other one-time senior programs that were funded last year that were not funded this year, but it's not related to the food program.
Was it something that was funded before that?
I would have to ask Mr. Gonzalez the answer to that question.
So the 26,000 was
From last year?
Last year for
Or the current year,
additional-
right? The current fiscal year?
The current fiscal year, correct, was for additional services provided through our mobility program, so rides that we provide for seniors, as well as activities, so field trips. We've done a concert at El Corazon. We've done different kinds of activities that have
were
been
not done the year
facilitated by that
before?
one-time funding.
That were not done the year before?
Not at that same level.
Okay. All right, thank you. Go ahead. Can you give him back his time? I apologize.
That's okay. Just to let you know, the Senior Citizen Center on Club Drive has done a lot for me and a lot of people up there. It's a social gathering for people to come who might otherwise be isolated. I live out in Escondido. I know absolutely nobody out there. And they do such a wonderful job up the Club Drive Senior Center. The volunteers are wonderful. I come there to see the volunteers. They're absolutely wonderful. Karina and Judy do an absolutely splendid job running the center. And I look forward to it because it's like a social atmosphere for me. It's a social atmosphere for me to come and see people. I participated in their arts and crafts and Valentine's Day. I did the drum circle with them. And they're just wonderful, wonderful people. And I love coming there. And it's a great social atmosphere for all of us. So I hope the funding for that Senior Citizen Center continues and that 26,000 is not cut. Really do appreciate all those people. Thank you for letting me speak.
Thank you very much. Can I ask one more question of staff is that just the senior center at Country Club Lane, or was that for both senior centers?
Honorable Mayor and Council, it's primarily programming associated with the country club, but we use it at both centers.
Okay, thank you. Okay, next person is Carly Starr, followed by Bob Ashton, followed by Leo Chapinski.
Hello, Mayor and City Council. I'm Carly Starr, Executive Director of the Oceanside Channel, KOCT Television, Community Center, and the Voice of North County. I stand before you to humbly request $150,000 additional funding for KOCT television to be included into the 26-27 city budget to sustain our essential services to our diverse public. For 45 years, we have committed our mission to serve all aspects of Oceanside with integrity. This request is about sustainability. It's ensuring every resident continues to have access to local information, government transparency, and a platform for community voices. PEG channels in this country were never designed to be solely supporting, and with the current landscape of streaming, we've had to work day and night with our national organizations and our community to reimagine our next steps forward for public access sustainability to continue our partnership with the city and our trusted community. Each year, KOCT widens our revenue streams, our production services, our grant income, our sponsorships. We are growing stronger every year. We operate 2 channels, 24/7 live stream, interactive websites, social media platforms. We host more debates and election coverage in town halls than any person in the entire county. We offer after-school programs, youth services, workforce development for the local colleges. We do hands-on mentorship. We train middle schoolers, elementary, high schoolers, college, veterans, recent grads. We even engage the elderly in many mentorship programs. We broadcast and inform on Camp Pendleton. We stream live sports. Even now we belong to the Oceanside Bombers. We do graduations, the parade, tree lighting, the arts district, festivals. We do podcasts for those who otherwise could not afford it, just to name a few things that we do. So KOCT respectfully asks for your consideration, and I would like to reiterate our deep appreciation for your recent funds and your support for last year to maintain our 45-year legacy as one of the last nonpartisan media outlets in this country and in San Diego and the greater North County. We're here to serve you. We're KOCT. Thank you.
Thank you. Bob Ashton, followed by Leo Chapinski, followed by Jamie.
Good evening, Honorable Mayor, council members, city staff, and fellow Oceansiders. I'm Bob Ashton, the Chief Executive Officer for Save Oceanside Sand. Special thanks to the staff for their hard work on the 26-27 budget. That's no light lift there. That's a pretty heavy lift. Our beaches are not just a natural amenity, they're essential infrastructure. They protect property, they support our economy, they define who we are as a city. But today, our beaches continue eroding, narrowing, and making our city more vulnerable each year. We have solutions in projects like the Oceanside Re-Beach Pilot Project, Regional Beach Sand 3 Project, and long-term scaling of these efforts. But the key to moving forward is simple. Funding is what makes these projects reality. And funding for the future is what secures long-term resilience of our coast and financial resilience for our community. That means establishing substantial recurring funding commitments that support not just one project, but long-term program of coastal management, restoration, monitoring, and maintenance. Doing so has immediate benefits. It not only shows the community you care about our city and its livelihood, but it also shows at state and funding agencies that Oceanside is ready to lead. It strengthens our ability to compete for major grants by demonstrating local commitment and matching funds. And it ensures vision and commitment to investment in our community's future. So projects like Re-Beach don't stop at a pilot, but scale to real lasting solutions for our entire shoreline. A question tonight for council and staff: what is the backup plan to fund our critical beach restoration projects if grant money is not approved or not available? Equally important is partnership. Community organizations like Save Oceanside Sand have built strong community awareness and advocacy for true change in restoring our beaches. By working together, the city and community advocates can amplify support, strengthen grant applications, and help secure critical state and federal funding needed to move these projects forward. Now, this is how we turn momentum into action. So the ask tonight is clear. Move beyond planning and begin establishing real, sustained funding commitments for coastal restoration. Align those commitments with priority projects like Re-Beach and RBSP3 and form a true partnership with the community so we can continue to bring the outside funding that will make these efforts scalable and sustainable. Because in the end, we all want the same thing. This is about protecting our beaches, our coastline, and our community's financial future. And the future depends on what we choose to fund starting now. Thank you.
Thank you. Leo Chapinski, followed by Jamie, followed by Max Disposti.
Mayor, City Council, forgive me, I just have one of those traumatic brain injury moments where I was laughing about all us homeless folks, there's hundreds of us, getting buckets and going to Carlsbad and getting their sand late at night, don't tell anybody, and then bringing it to our beach. I know, but hey, it was what I was thinking. If you go to National Geographic, you'll see a picture of me, kinda, because I was in dress blues when I got my traumatic brain injury, and this was 2015. And we were talking about saving our Marines and our soldiers from shell shock or whatever you want to call it. And we haven't done a very good job of that. But anyway, with regards to the funding, you really had me worried, Mayor. You had me thinking I was stepping in some poo. I mean, I thought, you mean we're not really here to check on that $26,000 that's being cut from us old folks? But then we found out that it's true, it is being cut. Okay, we're good to go. And it
Yes,
can
thank
be,
you for letting me know.
yeah, well, we try. We get together once in a while, especially those of us that don't smoke, don't drink, don't do drugs, and don't do any of that stuff. But anyway, Officer Perez, we're gonna get back to funding with the HOT team. Officer Perez, for 5 years or however long he worked, never let me go through wintertime without being housed, ever. So I don't know how many years he did that, but Officer Perez, God bless him. The other folks, though, I haven't seen a bed in 5 or 6 years. So you got the good, the bad, the ugly, I guess, there. The thing is with this money, they're right. Karina and Judy do an excellent job there at the centers. I go on Tuesdays and Thursdays to have some lunch up there at
Country Club Lane.
by the Elks, by the Elks place. And then I do Monday, Wednesday, and Friday at the other place, and they're both different. The dynamics on both these places are different,
Right.
which is way cool. And but when I found out they were going to cut some money from the elderly, from those people who are either children of the greatest people we had in this country, or even some of them. I saw a guy the other day who was like something like 99 years old or whatever. And these people have paid their dues. They have suffered. They have gone through a lot. My parents went through the Great Depression as children. I mean, shouldn't be cutting anything from these folks. I knew we were in trouble. Oh, I knew we were in trouble when we took out that hot water machine and that cold water machine from the people working out at the gym. Those old folks don't deserve any cold water when they're working out. I knew the city was hurting for money then. And sure enough, bingo, I was right.
Thank you. Jamie or Jaime, followed by Max Disposti, followed by Charlie Bowen.
Hi, I'm Jamie. I'm a social worker in Oceanside. I'm really here to comment about Project X, but to inform that, I wanted to ask if we could get a little bit more information about the additional funding officers and drones for the police department. What are the drones? What are they used for?
Yeah, we did have a workshop on that, but
Okay.
I'm sure that there's somebody that could talk to you about that in the police department. Yes, there's a hand up there, so he's happy to go to talk to you.
Great, thank you.
Thank you. Max Disposti, followed by Charlie Bowen, followed by Joan Bachman.
Okay, good evening, Mayor and council members. Few things, I go fast because the time is limited. A few fun facts. Nonprofit in Oceanside employs an estimated 10% of the population, 9,000 people. Nonprofits are the third largest employer in Oceanside after Camp Pendleton and city government. Just for the record, in listening to the conversation, I just want to remind everyone that the work that our city that nonprofits do the work that our city cannot or doesn't want to do. While the city can do city programming, the reality for you, the reality is that marginalized youth do not trust the city or the police. That is why your city employees call us when there is work to do and trust to be built in the community. I say that because thinking of absorbing all you activities does not take in consideration the reality of the facts. Your example on how the city is undermining voluntarily and involuntarily the role of nonprofits. Measure X budget, the allocated funds for nonprofit, is the only budget on the Measure X allocation. Obviously, this is about Measure X, that was shrink from 1 million to 750,000 to be divided by a pool of competitive grants applicants. The allocation to Oceanside Library, which I fully support, I used to be a board member, and the allocation of $100,000 for the Oceanside related activities, youth activities, which I fully support, and then the $70,000 for the police, again, which I don't support, may so that we have reduced the amount to be awarded despite the data shows the impact that those grants have already had in our community according to city staff. So my proposal is to reallocate the original amount of $1 million by not damaging the allocation to $100,000 to the city libraries, because the money is there, folks. There's been an increase from last year, but you made big allocation. Everyone's budgets went up, but the nonprofit one. Two, so I'm asking you to reallocate back to $1 million by honoring also the expenses for the city budget, the library as well. Oh, shoot. So the last thing, the city has threatening for years to let nonprofit pay for our cultural heritage events here in Oceanside. Filipino Festival, Salmon Festival, Private Beach. We carry the cost of policing, permits, and everything else, but then we're investing $1.1 million for security in downtown Oceanside through Main Street programs. Again, I support them. I've been a board member for 7 years. This is not about a war among ourselves. It's about prioritizing. Taking away from nonprofits, they're doing the vital work along many others. In youth, and youth that doesn't trust the police, it doesn't trust the city, it's really not really where we need to go. And it's only a fraction of the $27 million of the budget you're allocating. So I'm really asking you to reallocate also $80,000 to pay for fees and permits and police for our cultural events because we're struggling. This year I was hit almost with a bill of $17,000 to do Private Beach for one day that I was able to avoid. But that's a problem that we need to really reallocate for the city. Thank you for your time.
Thank you, thank you. Can I ask staff, are we going to continue the program with respect to the security, it was a change because of the heightened sense of the need for security, and I believe there was a grant that was put together to address some of the funding concerns.
Honorable Mayor.
Is that going to continue for this next fiscal year?
Council, yes. The funding that was allocated from the general fund to support our cultural events, primarily the cost of additional public safety, is continuing in the next fiscal year.
Okay. Yeah, and that's for non-alcoholic events, though, right? Non-alcoholic events, right?
I don't believe any of those events have alcohol involved with them.
Yeah, but alcoholic events would require more security. So we're only talking about events. Yes, I think all the city supported events are non-alcoholic. Yes.
Honorable Mayor, I believe that's accurate.
Yes, okay, thank you. Charlie Bowen, followed by Joan Bachman.
Good evening, Mayor and council members. My name is Charlie Bowen, Communications Director for Save Oceanside Sand. Tonight, I'd like to revisit the budget discussion from the March 4th CIP workshop with regards to the Rebeach pilot project, specifically not being included in the CIP budget. The following comments from our city manager are from the Coast News article dated March 13th. Quote, "The project's design is still underway and that the funding has already been allocated. While Rebeach may not be a line item in the budget, he said the city has budgeted for other sand restoration efforts, such as the annual sand dredging in the harbor," unquote. I believe Rebeach was referred to as quote unquote sort of an anomaly in said discussion. Therefore, I'm here this evening to urge you to request that this budget anomaly be corrected in our city's budget. I realize that Measure X funding is segregated because of the oversight and reporting requirements of the tax measure that was passed. Nevertheless, given the city's increasing focus on and prioritization of beach restoration, my suggestion is to consolidate and segregate coastal zone management projects in the budget to the extent possible. Doing so will provide the necessary focus on and prioritization of the funding and management of those projects as our city continues on the urgent and critical path of beach restoration and coastal resiliency. It is beach restoration and coastal resiliency that will provide immense returns to the city and the community in the form of revenue that can fund other infrastructure projects, provide city services, support our local businesses and jobs, as well as provide for the free days at the beach so many of us enjoy and the recreation and spiritual nourishment it provides. One of the challenges we constantly face within our organization is attending to what's urgent at the expense of doing what's important. Tonight, I encourage you to remember the importance of restoring our beaches as you wrestle with the urgent matters of running a city. Thank you very much for your time tonight.
Thank you. Joan Bachman?
Good evening, Mayor and council members. We have to cover a lot of ground here. So I was happy to hear the word habitat brought up with Measure X, and yes, we need more of that. Please consider our landscape, our rivers, and our creeks as assets and not problems to be solved usually with concrete, because that shows up in the budget a lot. I'm going to cover a lot of things. Thank you for the BVAS Buena Vista Audubon crosswalk that's showing up in the thing. And again, consider that as a solution. It's traffic calming, and let's not get one poorly placed crosswalk, but maybe two that would help with traffic calming in that particular section. A third thing, please fund design for the El Corazon entrances. We have the equipment hut, which isn't a mistake, at the Oceanside Boulevard entrance. And we've had to go round and round. Now it's fully landscaped, but it is still a mistake. And today at Rancho Del Oro, I counted 2 invasive carrotwood trees, yay, and an invasive wattle, which is actually taking over the entire city once you know what that is, and 4 fan palms. So left to themselves, invasives will take over that entrance, and we need a design so that we can get things in the right places and drive the right behavior. Having the design for El Corazon has resulted in staff making little decisions over the last 23, 4 years, and things happen, and we do move things forward, and it's very cost effective. They have a great design and then go from there. So those are all important things that I really would like you to consider. Thank you.
Thank you. All right, are there any staff wanted to address any of the comments that were made by the public? No? Okay. So, yes? No? I see some movement, but nothing. All right. To council then, I would like to, I am concerned about the $26,000 that were cut from the senior programming, so I'd like to see how we can somehow restore that. Mr. Borrego?
Yeah, Honorable Mayor and council members, yeah, there was one-time funding that was allocated last year that was not carried over this year. And so when we bring the budget back to you in June, we can certainly provide some options to restore that money, but it was considered one-time money, which, just for everyone's knowledge, why it wasn't
That never
automatically
happened before.
rolled over to
Right.
this year's budget, but we can certainly look to see if we can find the funding to fully restore what was provided last year.
Okay, thank you. Just some initial comments. We've come a long way from when I first got on the council in 2001. I came on the council and the city did not have a lot of funds. There was a really huge problem that had to do with the pension obligation. Apparently in the past, the city council, and it really fluctuated. Some years the city was to give super duper payments, and then some other years there was not a whole lot that was required. And so there were some years, apparently, as what was presented to me as a new council member, that the city did not make payments towards its pension obligation. So by the time we got to 2001, it wasn't the City of Oceanside was not alone. There was a growing pension obligation issue, unfunded pension obligations that cities were getting more and more behind. In fact, I believe one city ended up having to declare bankruptcy. That was Stockton, over the pension obligation not being able, I think, when things got to the point where they weren't able to pay, or the public safety ended up being like close to 60% of the budget, that it wasn't sustainable. So as a side note, we ended up benefiting from that because we ended up getting a lot of lateral transfers from Stockton. And so we had some really good officers coming in that were very well trained and were able to hit the ground running. But certainly our city definitely, we were hoping not to be able to have to be that city that would have had to declare bankruptcy. And then in 2008, 2009, there was a Great Recession, and that was an extremely, extremely painful time for our city. We ended up having to lay off 100 employees. And my understanding from asking questions of staff, we're still below, in terms of personnel, below what we were before the Great Recession. So we are still operating with less employees, and yet our city has over time grown. Our city population, as well as the needs, the service needs, as well as the requirements for infrastructure. I will tell you, when I first got on the council, there were times that the council did not put money into maintenance, and we got behind on that. So it was not a pretty time for us. After that, we had the 2021 COVID, right, and that recovery from that. But for the ARPA funds that we received, that was $32.3 million. We would have been a very, very difficult situation. And there was recovery took till 2022, 23. So now we have a situation where we've got a national situation where the debt payments are taking a lot at that national level. The state is having also huge debt situation, as well as the county. And I think there was an article that came out yesterday about the city of San Diego and how very, very behind they are, and how they're not even able to have a Healthy Cities, meet their obligations with respect to having a Healthy Cities fund, which is for City of San Diego to be able to operate for 2 months and to be able and not be able to do that is really, really a hard thing to see. Plus, they're not even going to be able to pay for all of their employees. I don't know what kind of cuts they're looking at. I want to say, I'm saying all of that because it was very, very painful. We've had a very painful time, but we are able to have our Healthy Cities. We do have a lot of infrastructure. We're an older city, 1888 established, and we're having to expand in terms of our water. And also, I think we hear you loud and clear in terms of our roads conditions. I know you all are really wanting us to move faster in terms of repairing our roads, potholes and all that. So the city, we did have a workshop on that, or a council item on that, and we are moving as, in terms of trying to stretch all the dollars. Different conditions of the roads means, if it's a really torn down road, it's going to cost and take a lot more of the funds. Whereas if we try to maintain some of the roads, those roads will last longer and will end up costing less over time. So I wanted to preface that our conversations, understanding that we are not out of danger in terms of our funding. They are already talking about cutting CDBG again. The president wants to do that, as well as, I believe, they're starting to suggest that in the House. So what I thought we were okay, they're actually going to go back on the budgets, and we may be looking at, not having CDBG funds coming through. And that was, I think the total was less than $2 million. It was a lot less than we had last year. So I am concerned about what we could be looking at. I appreciate staff putting this together with the understanding that come July 1st, if things are not as what we hope they would be, that we're going to have to look at our budget again. And the worst thing that we could ever do is hire or contract out for services and then have to cut those because behind them are people. And I would not want to have us have to lay off anybody or cut contracts because we just don't have the funds. So I definitely never want to be in that position again. It was very painful. I knew a lot of folks who ended up having to, be laid off from the city. So as we move forward, I hope that we understand that we're talking about seriously ensuring that as we move forward, we do not dip into our reserves, that we have some very critical projects, especially the Pier Bridge that's going to cost about $60 million. I think we only have about 20 million at this point. The Santa Fe River Flood Control Project, that once we get it in just 2 or 3 years, we're going to have to come up with $1 to $2 million a year for maintenance. And there are other obligations that we have. We also need to have a new police department. That is something that we've put off for how many years? I want to say 30 years. It's not something that we can continue to put off any longer. And the more we put things off, the higher the cost of those projects. So I think public safety is always our #1 priority. It has to be. It's not like they can say, okay, the third call that comes in at 911, we're just going to ignore it because we don't have enough money to fund public safety, be it police or fire. We have to be on top of public safety, and it's something that is that we are definitely committed to. So, Councilmember Figueroa.
Thank you, Mayor. Just a few items. I want to start off by saying I think that when it comes to youth programming and making sure that there's an investment there from the city is always critical in regards to public safety and the health of our community and our neighborhoods. Before I was on council, I was here every year advocating for more youth programming funding, given my career has been in youth development and youth programs. I think I'm excited to hear about what that cannabis tax revenue can do for our youth programs, especially some of those programs that have historically received funding from the City of Oceanside and are receiving support via Measure X. So I look forward to hearing that from staff. In regards to our sand replenishment, I did see, and I mentioned this before at previous meetings, just looking at solutions, I did see that we did have an increase by 4% when it came to our TOT tax, seeing if there's some way to tie in our TOT tax to a sustainable revenue stream for sand replenishment, and seeing if that's something that staff can continue to look at. I'm just looking for solutions as we look at the Measure X funding, and there's needs everywhere. There's needs across all of our departments. There's needs throughout our community. I know it was mentioned that many times our nonprofits do what the cities can't or don't do, and that's very true. As someone who has spent their entire career in nonprofits, I couldn't agree with that statement, And so it's like, that statement is just so valid and so true. One of the things that I wanted to bring up that I didn't see listed in this, within our budget, and it's something that we discussed when we were talking about tenant protections, and I felt like there was consensus on a specific best practice that I think it was shared that if it was brought up, there might be support, and that was legal assistance for our low-income tenants. SANDAG released a report on their anti-displacement and best practices report in 2023 as legal services as one of the best practices tools to prevent displacement, to prevent homelessness. And recently we received the RENA numbers and where we are with our low income housing, and we're still a long ways away from meeting those numbers. And so just thinking about what we can do in the interim, I believe that getting support for legal services wouldn't be a personnel challenge, because if it's something that we come short on funding next year, we don't have to renew. We can work with, we can contract with the nonprofit that provides these services. But at the same time, as we're looking to build more affordable housing, this can be an interim tool that we can provide to our community to prevent homelessness and displacement. And so I just ask that, see if there's support here on the council to direct staff to look at if there is potential funding that we can look for to consult or contract with a nonprofit or a firm that can provide legal services to our low-income residents here in Oceanside.
Thank you. Deputy Mayor?
I want to start with a point of information. So he just asked if there's support for that on the dais. When we're giving these directions, I think staff looks at this tape to see if there was consensus for these things. So how do we make sure staff understands whether or not there was a majority consensus? Just functionally as a point of information. As I mean, you brought up something too.
Mr. Borrego? Well, I think we basically, you know, if there are three people who want to support something, then, but Mr. Borrego, go ahead.
Yeah, I would say that the cleanest way to do it is to actually do a separate vote on a particular item, so it's very clear, as opposed to us trying to read the room and not having a clear vote. So I would suggest that it be put for a specific vote so we can have clear direction one way or the other.
Right.
Okay, so I'd love to take that vote and the vote on Madam Mayor's request to restore the $26,000 for the senior funding.
All right, let's start, since I was the first one that said the senior programming, that was $26,000 to direct staff to find some options, I think is what the city manager said he would do. So is there a second to that? Okay, so I don't see any other lights. Let's vote on that.
Motion approved, 5-0.
Okay. Next is, what was it you wanted? Okay, legal assistance regarding tenant protections. Is there a second to that? Oh, Councilmember Weiss.
Yeah, I just have a couple of just real quick questions. So, Mr. Gossman, it looks like for Measure X, for this proposed year, we're actually spending more than we're bringing in on an annual basis. I know there's carry forward money, but we're actually spending more than we're bringing in.
That is correct. And as you stated, that it is because of one-time costs and capital projects, but correct, yes.
And then for Ms. Moya, in the general fund budget, out of like roughly $240 million, we have a $130,000 surplus, is that correct?
That's correct.
Thank you.
All right, Councilmember Robinson? Okay, there was a second for tenant protections, legal services.
No, I'll talk about it. I just didn't know, if it didn't get a second, I didn't have to talk about it. I'm not going to support it. We've had this discussion before. The whole idea of nonprofits and us contracting. If a nonprofit's out there doing this work, we don't have to contract with them. The people can go to the nonprofit and they do the work. We don't have to, it's not our responsibility. I'm just saying I won't support it.
All right, Deputy Mayor?
So I'm going to support it because when there's an eviction court, 90% of folks who are landlords are represented by council and 10% do not, those are the renters. When we support this, we support prevention of homelessness. Eviction can lead to the most awful outcomes, including, having to spend more to get people back into homes later on. So early intervention is so incredibly critical. There are organizations that do some of this work. However, their capacity is extremely limited. So this fund would go to pay for specific cases as proposed before. We have an organization called CSA that works with our city right now, and they give advice to landlords and tenants when there are issues around eviction or just issues about understanding the complex legal situation around being a tenant and being a landlord, and it helps to solve problems. Sometimes those problems come to the head with people being removed. I'm in the current conversation with a resident of District 1 who's had black mold in her home, and she cannot get the landlord to take care of it appropriately. But there's no one to refer her to after CSA says, yeah, this is a problem, but you need somebody to represent you in court on this. If she goes to court, she's going to be trying to learn the law and represent herself. There are cases that CSA would recommend that we have somebody present with counsel for their cases to make sure that they're not being unjustly removed from their homes. So it's really important. It doesn't, as Councilmember Figueroa, take up more staff. It's an isolated program. I'd be happy if it was a pilot program and we saw what are the results of this program over the next year. So I really hope that we support it. I do believe remember hearing a third person say they'd support it at our original conversation about it, but we were talking about so many different things that I think it got confusing. This one's a real skinny program that would really prevent homelessness. So I'm hoping we can get it across the line today.
Thank you. We actually have several communities that would love to have legal services. And so it would be, for me, it would be very difficult to do this and not do it for everybody. So I'm not going to be able to support this. There's a motion and a second, please vote.
Motion fails, 2-3, Sanchez, Robinson, Weiss, no.
Okay, what was the other one?
Those were the only two
Okay.
motions that were on the floor.
Okay. All right, so Councilmember Weiss.
So I was going to make a motion to approve what staff has prepared for us and direct staff to return on June 3rd for the final budget adoption. But Madam Mayor, do you want to do them individually, or can I just say the general fund, Measure X, utilities, CIP, and harbor budget? If we can take them all in one shot, we can.
Well, we could try that.
Okay, then that's my motion.
Is there a second? Okay. Deputy Mayor Joyce?
So it seems like this is a motion to end conversation because the way that we set up the process just now was that we would talk about any differences from the budget individually and take a vote on them. But now, if this passes, there's nothing to talk about. So it's a point of information, really.
All right, so before Councilmember Weiss said anything, there was a pause that I had nobody else wanting to speak. So he has a motion. You can continue talking, but pretty much there is a motion on the floor.
All right, I'll just talk into the void. Here we go. So I really would like to have that vote on the youth funding, on adding funds to the youth fund so we're not cannibalizing these trusted organizations that are doing work in the community, that are community-based, and we're not putting funds from what we had dedicated to be community-based programming to reach kids where they're at with trusted adults in the communities. I would really like us to add funding to that line item in Measure X so that we get back up to $1 million for the kids like we had before on community-based programs plus the city-based programs. So I can't make a motion, but that would be my motion if I could.
All right, because there's a motion on the floor already. Okay. Councilmember Robinson, did you want to say something?
I do. I just want to comment back on that is one of the number one things I hear in my district from going to the community meet is what is Parks and Rec doing? Why aren't the Parks and Rec personnel leading programs? And now what's presented to us is exactly that. They're taking the bull by the horns, for lack of a better word. They're establishing programs. They're bringing personnel out there. And I think it was, as Mr. Disposti actually said, that we used the nonprofits when there was things we couldn't do or didn't want to do. We do want to do these things. I wouldn't support that initiative if you could make a motion, just letting you know that.
Okay. I think that there's a little bit of a cloud because when we started this, it was for the city to be doing programming, and the city didn't have enough money to do more programming. We had a relationship with, for example, the Boys and Girls Club, and they ended up having a different model. So then the city then went out and did programming on site in neighborhoods. And it actually ended up doing well. Now, I don't see cannibalizing because it was never done before. This is what our third year. We're looking at the fourth fiscal year. And the first year, it was kind of a surprise. Really, there's this money. But we did not give Parks and Rec a chance to rev up. So it's not cannibalizing. So some of those funds are being used by Parks and Rec. They're just not having to compete with other nonprofits. So a mentoring program was meant to, as a volunteer program, where you get folks who have come out of the neighborhoods that have done well, like a Willie Buchanan or like a Willie Banks, or, folks that have done well to come back to talk to the kids. In the East Side community, we actually have some of the former gang members coming back and talking to the kids saying, look, you don't want to be in a 6x6. I mean, we've got folks who are able and willing to talk to our youth. I've always worked in programming wherever we had mentoring, and it was a volunteer program. So I think that maybe through this process moving forward, I think Monday is the deadline for submitting applications. Number one, I like the transparency we are obviously having on what's happening with Measure X in terms of youth programming, but it was more specific. We are having lower crime rates. We are having better communications with our police and fire with respect to our neighborhoods. We've been working on this for nearly 25 years on improving the relationships between our police officers and our community. We have had community policing in Oceanside. There's been a whole lot of changes. So I think that a possible, if something is not happening, there's not that trust. I think we need to work on that trust because we need to have those better relationships. And I think that is something that we all want to see happening. I think that the LGBTQ Resource Center does a fantastic job. And I do hope that they continue to be funded. I think they're applying for funding, right? And maybe there were some programs that didn't work out last time, and these are folks who just did it once, right? And maybe that's, I mean, I'm not part of the discussion on why Measure X or the staff decided, well, let's be more focused, because that's what it seems like. In the meanwhile, we're doing more at the city with respect to Parks and Rec programming with the Parks and Rec director. So I'd like to see what staff comes up with. Again, I feel very confident that staff is doing a good job, especially Parks and Rec. I've never seen so many programs out there, from pickleball to now we're looking at flag football. There's a team that wants to come out here and do girls flag. I mean, I'm excited that there are these opportunities, and they're at no cost. So I'm excited about all this. And for now, I think that I'd like to see what comes out of this year, because it may be that we do pretty well this year, and maybe there was more of a misunderstanding about what we were looking for in terms of addressing this with respect to public safety. Councilmember Figueroa?
So just for context, because I want to, for the youth programming, I was one of the folks asking for Measure X prior to being on council to get, always looking at youth programming as public safety. And just for context in regards to the million, last year for that million, Parks and Recs received funding. I believe the library did too, and so did OPD. And what happened was we had our departments essentially submitting applications along with our nonprofits.
Yeah, they were having to compete.
Right. And
Yeah.
so by allocating the funding separate from that application pool, you no longer have departments feeling like city staff or city departments are competing with our nonprofits, because I know that the teen nights has been something that's been talked about that we used to have in Oceanside, then we didn't have. And so for Parks and Recs to take that initiative to bring that back, that's part of mentoring. The OYP program with OPD, if that's what the 70,000 is going to support, that is mentoring. They're working with at-risk youth. They're working with kids that are going through the diversion program, whether they've been in trouble in school already or they've received some type of diversion. OYP has become that for them. The majority of the kids in those programs do live in Libby, the East Side, the Mid-Valley, Tri-City. And so that is mentoring. I think that the intent behind having them not part of that pool was to not have city competing with our nonprofits. Is that correct? To our city manager, correct, right? How much did they, and because we don't have the figures in front of us right now, how much did Parks and Rec, Library, and OPD receive last year out of that 1 million?
I'm going to defer to our assistant city manager since he manages the budget year to year, and hopefully he can do it on the fly here. No guarantees.
In library, it was, I want to say, and I'm going off the top of my head, I apologize, but it was roughly $45,000 less than what they're receiving this year. Again, I would mention that it's a Teens Work program. It had historically been funded by a grant, and the grant went away, and we're trying to support that program. In Oceanside Youth Partnership, I believe it was the same as this year, so it hasn't changed. And then similarly for Parks and Rec, do you know the amount, Manny? Can you address that? It was just shy of 95,000. So it's going up 25,000 from what it was the last year.
So percentage-wise, it was like 5% more than what they got last year from that 1 million.
Yes.
And so I think the intent behind this year was not to have the nonprofits competing with the city department.
That and offering transparency in terms of, look, these are discrete programs that are city programs, and I wanted them called out explicitly so that to the end that you're discussing, and to show that in the line item, with city programming, and similarly for nonprofits, I'm not taking away from that, but understanding that on an ongoing basis, that line item is there, allows them to resource it in a more permanent way. And it's for planning, operations, transparency, and that idea that the city isn't competing directly with our nonprofits. It's those tenets right there.
Thank you. That was my comment.
Right. So it's not cannibalizing. I mean, that was all part of one fund, and now it's like two, basically, kind of a thing. Two different. It was taken out so that you can see exactly what the city was going after.
Madam Mayor, if I could say too, from staff's perspective, truly, and we want to see that $1 million maximized in terms of the effectiveness and the impact it has on the community. And
Right.
from my perspective, if that means it's a city program that they can put something forward that's unique and additive and not supplanting what was historically done with general fund, I think that's fantastic.
Right.
And that is how we looked at it in terms of a budgeting perspective. And I don't know if Mr. Borrego wants to.
And I want to say that was the intent of, to be included in Measure X. We were looking at essentials, like how do we address the crime rate? And some of it, we needed after-school programming. So, and that was what I was really pushing. It was not, we didn't have Parks and Rec being able to do that. Now we do. And I think it's pretty phenomenal. We've got people from the community applying and being employees that are working in their own neighborhoods, like making a difference. It's a pretty fantastic thing, I think, what we're doing. We need to have, we are really changing up. The city is reflective of the community, and I think that is another accomplishment that we have with the city, is that we're really working hard to be responsive and responsible to our communities. Deputy Mayor.
Again, and just in the interest of clarity around this item, which we all find so important, I'm really very clearly excited about the programs that are proposed, and I think we should fund them, and we should continue funding the community-based organizations. And so I just have a couple of questions around that. Are city programs going to be doing the same reporting back that the nonprofits are being asked to do on how effective they've been?
Yes, that's a council, financial reporting, it's a council policy that they need to report quarterly.
No, I think we've actually asked these programs to do effectiveness reporting.
We can certainly direct them to do that. That's generally part of the direction from city manager's office. It's different.
Yeah, a lot of them were not very effective at all. Yeah.
But we will, are you asking about the city programs or
I'm
the?
sorry.
I'm sorry.
What I'm asking for clarification is, previously, they all filled out a very specific, long application for funding that included, how are you going to measure if this program is effective? So now we have split off city programming.
Yes.
Are they also, I know they don't have to fill out the application anymore. Do they have to do the reporting afterwards?
They will do the reporting similarly to what, and I would say in some cases above what is required under the grant program, as directed by the city manager's office.
Okay, so again, in clarity, just because there's this talk about it not taking one from the other, how much could programs apply for last year?
I would have to ask Leilani Hines or her staff to answer questions specific to the grant funding program.
Thank you, Director Hines.
She sat in the middle hoping she wouldn't have to get up and talk, but we fooled her.
I'm actually going to ask Maria Yanez with staff. Sorry about that. Who was directly involved in putting together the RFP, issued the RFP.
Was it 60? Up to 70?
I believe it was up to 75,000.
Okay, Thank you. Sorry to make everybody get up for that. How much are they eligible to apply for this year? Up to? Again, this is, I just want to be super clear. It's just for transparency. This is not, I understand this is a draft plan that's brought to us, and it's our job to make sure it's fitting the needs that the city is asking for. I believe it's 30 or something close to that.
It's close to $50,000.
Close to 50. Okay, so it's less. That's what I'm pointing out. To run these programs are expensive. The better programs are even more expensive. And now the funding is going down per programs that are based in the community. Also, you don't have to get up for this. I'll look at the plan for this one. In this year, we have allocated $1,445,000. Next year, we have the same. The third year, that funding goes down to $895,000, and then $795,000. So I'm seeing that our community programming is on the chopping block. And I just am raising this flag because I see a changing of what was, I thought, intended. I understand that we don't all share that view. And I want to raise the flag in the middle of it and not wait till it's too late. So if I could make a motion on this, I would make a motion for us to fully fund the programs.
So everything was ramping down because it's only a 10-year program, right? Unless it goes back on the ballot for an extension. I did notice that too. You know, all of the categories are moving down, except for, I think, public safety, which was the largest intent of the program, that and infrastructure. So, Councilmember Robinson?
That's not what it shows.
Because I guess I don't see that there's anything being taken away from the community. I mean, the community is doing a pretty good job with the programs. Not everyone that did a program this past year was effective. In fact, a lot of them were not. Councilmember Robinson?
Mayor, I'm just going to call for the question, please.
All right. All right. Did you have some final comments, Deputy Mayor? Because I don't think anyone else is really taking you on.
I'd just say that there are lots of line items that remain the same. And, you know, a budget is a statement of your priorities. So I would just ask that we really think about that as we move. This is not adopted tonight. So we can continue to have conversations. I know that this is our only time to talk together. I'm sad that it's being cut short because I love talking to y'all about these things.
I think that we have had a good conversation, and I actually am very happy with what Parks and Rec is doing, with the city staff is doing out there. And I'm in there every day dealing with the situation in our neighborhoods. I haven't really moved my residence. I still live in the barrio. There's still a lot of things that we deal with, and I think, and I'm telling you, I believe that there have been very positive changes. Can we do more? Yes. I don't know that throwing money at it without any proof that that's going to make a difference is something that that I want to do. So anyway, I'm going to go ahead and call the question. Well, Councilmember Figueroa, I'll let you make the last comments.
I would just say, to start off this meeting, I know that our city manager also mentioned that there would be discussions about the cannabis tax and how that can support some of these programs. When we think about Measure X, it's a 10-year, it has a specific lifeline
Right.
to look for as a city to find more sustainable revenue streams, especially for our youth serving programs, our prevention-based programs. I think that that's a way that, to look forward. I know it's not being presented to us at the moment, but I know that there is a strategy to provide support for our prevention-based youth programs here in the city. So.
Okay, thank you. And I want to echo the comments that the city manager made at the very beginning of this conversation, and that is that I think that staff is doing a great job, and thank you very much. There's a motion and a second. Please vote.
I have one more point of information. I apologize. There was something brought up by the community. KOCT asked for $150,000, and that wasn't brought up. And I would just say, again, if I could make a motion, I'd like to direct staff to find a way to include that in this one-time budget year, considering the fact that local public media is more important now than ever, with NPR and PBS funding being cut, billionaires buying up newspapers to control information. Local public media that's unbiased is more important than ever.
Okay, thank you. Please vote.
Motion approved, 5-0.
Thank you. I guess I'll let it go at that. I know we had an agreement with KOCT, and all of that was discussed last year. So, all right, item number 6, communications for the public regarding items not on this agenda. Do we have any requests to speak?
We have 4 speakers.
Okay, let's do that.
Our first speaker is Edward Fitzpatrick, to be followed by Leo Chapinski, to be followed by Max Esposti.
Just
Mr.
thank you.
Fitzpatrick, thank you again for bringing that issue up.
Yes, you're welcome. Thank you, Honorable Mayor and council members. Once again, I just want to reiterate something that I've mentioned here when I've come to the council before. In the next 2 years, we are going to have artificial intelligence putting about 150 million people out of work. This is coming. It's not going to be stopped. And I would once again propose that Chicago has a pilot program where 1.5 million residents are getting universal basic income from these artificial intelligence companies. They are paying the money. It's not the council, it's not the city. And I think this is the wave of the future, because unless you can stop artificial intelligence, it's coming. And there's nothing really anybody's going to do about it. You got 10 artificial intelligence companies right next door in Carlsbad. So I see that the wave of the future is universal basic income being paid by these multi-billion-dollar corporations, and it's nothing to them to do this. And the program in Chicago is very successful. It's a pilot program, so I would urge you and ask you to think about that. Thank you very much.
Thank you. Leo Chapinski, followed by Max Esposti.
Council, thank you very much. Am I on the clock? Yes, I am. There's 2:58 already. But the deputy mayor was spot on. He was bullseye. I mean, he was darts right to the middle. The ounce of prevention is worth a pound of cure. Your parents, grandparents, and great-grandparents told you that a long, long time ago. You didn't wait for something to fester. You took care of it right then and there. That's the same thing with these fundings. But I also want to congratulate you for giving yourselves a really good pay raise. I like that. But John Fitzgerald Kennedy came into my town a long time ago. My mom shook hands with him. I cried when he got shot, but he said something like, ask not what your country can do for you, ask what you can do for your country. Well, here's what I'm thinking. Seeing as how you got this pay raise, it's just a thought. You know, it's just a Columbo thing. Because you're going to get paid next year and the next year and the next year and the next year. But this year, why don't you take all this money that you got from this pay raise and give it to the $26,000 that's missing from the old folks' place? Just show what the city council's all about and how they're about the city and how they're going to help all the old folks and pony up a little bit of those bucks and help those folks out. I think that'd be a good idea. Now let's get on to the real thing. I want to thank you folks for providing safe parking. It's, you know, I was worried that you wouldn't ever provide safe parking. But I went down to Ditmar Street and these other 2 streets, and I noticed that you have a whole safe parking for bikes. You've got a big, huge center. I mean, it's bigger than this circle here. And you got to have a credit card to get into it. And you got all these bikes in this air-conditioned unit. Wow, how cool is that? Now, if we could only have safe parking for the homeless people who spent time in Korea and Vietnam and Afghanistan and a few other little places, if you could just maybe help them with their vehicles, which happen to be their homes, by the way. But this is just a thought. Now, so far, because we have no safe parking, we've lost my good friend Fred. And I think of him, I think of Curtis Mayfield and Superfly. Fred is dead. I think of Manny and his beautiful 65 Corvette Stingray, which is given to, I think, his daughter. Keegan's dead. Red's dead. And about 20 other people are dead because we have no safe parking. We have no place for these people to go. And we just took Norman's car. He works over at Dollar Tree. He works 2 days a week. He has a hoarse voice, a white guy. You'll see him sleeping tonight at Petco on the concrete. And of course, Baby, the 14-year-old doggy, and Chris, they're on the concrete tonight too. We need safe parking.
Thank you. Max Disposti, followed by Joan Bachman.
I want to go back without going on the agenda item, excuse me, regarding Measure X, in particular how we are dealing with nonprofits. I know you hear me all the time coming here, and you see I'm the only one. I'm the only one speaking and advocating, and there are not nonprofits that don't want any funding, but sometimes they're afraid to speak out their mind for retaliations because they're afraid to compromise the relationship with the city. So I'm here all the time, but I would like to bring a very technical example because there is a pattern. I'm not saying it's intentional or not because we had different councils, but this starts from when CDBG funding, there were $300,000 allocation for nonprofit that we all, as I was a commissioner at the time, work on to assign support for nonprofits in Oceanside that were doing the work. The $300,000 were reallocated to buy the fire station under CDBG funding instead of general fund. That was 10 years ago. So that's one thing. The second, when ARPA funding were allocated, Oceanside originally allocated $200,000 for nonprofit. When San Marcos, City of San Marcos allocated $3 million for a quarter of the number of nonprofits that were in the city. I advocated for it. You all voted for $1 million allocation. So there is a pattern. The last pattern is technical that maybe some of you might not understand, not because you're ignorant to it, but because you're not exposed to it. Measure X funding, the City of Oceanside is making nonprofits more accountable than he's themselves for the federal government. And I'm referring to the guidelines of Measure X funding for the nonprofits. Number one, the indirect cost. Indirect costs are guided by the federal government at 15%. You never see them less, sometimes 13, and those are very, very difficult. For those of you who don't know indirect costs, go look it up because I don't have time. But the City of Oceanside provides 5% indirect costs. What it means, if I ask for $10,000, I need to provide $1,500 difference on my own labor because the city will not provide it. So the cost of $10,000 is $1,500. Then you're providing 25% matching. You're forcing nonprofit to match, to come with my own labor and cost. So at the end of the day, my $10,000 inquired award, if I get it, it cost me $3,500. Folks, these metrics are nowhere to be seen. I don't know who put it in place, why they put it in place, but they are roadblocks for nonprofits. The level of applications and references to nonprofit guidelines are off the charts. They are not existent anywhere in the United States. I'm not exaggerating when I say that no one gives 5% indirect cost. So there is an intent, directly and indirectly, to punish the nonprofit that are doing the work, because it's almost like you're giving the word as an award, but not knowing that there is work behind it. And sometimes we risk our life because we are in the front line. By the way, last thing, I wanted to bring that to attention. I brought it to the city manager. I know we're talking about it. But this is a fact that the city for years implements rules that there are have not references. Last thing, the City of Oceanside does not have social workers. I want to make sure the language is clear. You have caseworker, not clinical workers, not social workers. You're incapable to do the licensed work of many nonprofits on the field because there is a huge difference between a social worker and a clinical worker and a caseworker. Thank you so much for your time.
That's a contract through the county. But okay, thank you.
I know, but that's different. The county operates with all of us, Mayor.
Thank you. And Mr. Borrego, can you look into that? Thanks. Ms. Bachman?
Hello, Mayor and City Council. I have brought this up before. If we can get to the, there we go. This is a book I have referred. If you haven't seen it, you need to. And if you haven't looked into maybe somebody explaining it on YouTube, please do. They proved beyond a shadow of a doubt that homelessness is a housing problem. And it's not all the other things people point to. And that's becoming more aware across the spectrum. And I heard that even the administration in Washington is starting to look at this. However, as characteristic, they're pursuing the wrong solution. They're saying we got to build all these 40 million homes or whatever it is across the country, and that will be sprawl. So I want to be very clear that sprawl is not the answer. There was no Texas miracle. I went to Texas, I drove around, and it's just traffic. It's just sprawl. Austin is exploding out in every direction, and it is just sprawl. And it's the home of the Katy Freeway, and every place in Texas is going to look like the Katy Freeway at the way they're doing it. And so we're being smarter than that and looking at density, and being even smarter than that, putting density in the right place with our Smart and Sustainable Corridor program. So I keep talking about that because you really got to understand what a win-win you have here, because you can save the neighborhoods and get density without sprawling. And that's just incredibly important. Our most recent sprawl, North River Farms, they are going to be complaining about traffic nonstop from here on out. And every time they complain and every time they want to fix, you're going to try to fix it. And you can't. Nothing fixes traffic except fewer cars. So, and the budget was full of road repairs and all kinds of stuff. And we need to really compare people to cars and start looking at the right things to do. So what I'm hearing from Washington, wrong answer, sprawl. Sprawl will not help North Dakota, and it won't help California, and it certainly did not help Texas. So please look into this book and become familiar with it, because the title is exactly correct, and we can have the right solution or the wrong solution. And Oceanside is doing the right solution. Thank you.
Thank you. And Jamie?
Again, I'm a social worker at the school district, Oceanside Unified School District. I had a great conversation with Officer, I think it was. He touched on the fact that I think you touched on, which was, we have standards when it comes to safety. We have to have this funding for these safety standards. As a social worker, hearing of standards, I would love to have some standards when it comes to prevention for crime looks like preventing poverty and creating community. Our nonprofits create community. Our nonprofits are rooted in the community of Oceanside. Prevention of crime comes from having lawyers to help with eviction. That is our responsibility. Our shelters are inundated. As a social worker, sometimes my job feels like a joke because I'm here to give resources, but there aren't hotel vouchers anymore. We don't have immediate resources to prevent homelessness, prevent crime. People go into gangs when they're children, not when they're adults. People go into gangs when they're children because of poverty and lack of community. So I wasn't planning on speaking tonight. I don't have a lot of talking points, but I was honestly just kind of stunned. We have our police being funded more through Project X. It's the mentorship program, yes, but it's also the firing. That's starting at $4 million, but going to be upward of $10 million for a firing range through Project X funding. Also, the mentorship program, I understand wanting to connect the police with the community, but are our police the ones who are qualified to mentor our children? We have mental health clinicians that go to decades of school and training to do those sort of things. Mobile crisis unit doesn't have enough funding to respond. PERT has one mental health clinician in the whole team. So when I call PERT, the mental health clinician often isn't able to come. The prevention just feels that it's not a priority when I'm hearing the funding. If you said crime is reducing, but why are we increasing funds for police if crime is going down? That means that we need to prevent.
Thank you. I want to take exception to something you said, because I was born and raised here.
Yeah.
And I've gone through this whole thing, and May 1st, I'm turning 70, so that's how long I've lived and have worked in the community my adult life, all of it, as a community activist, as a community organizer, as a change agent. And there have been huge changes in the community. And officers, yes. Some of our officers actually grew up in the neighborhood, in the barrio, and decided to become an officer. And yes, they can be mentors. In fact, they are probably very good mentors because they were there and they had to deal with these decisions. So we actually do have folks that are hired by the city who grew up in the neighborhoods here in Oceanside and are making a tremendous difference. We even have engineers who grew up in the East Side and now doing this really fantastic job for the city, doing an outstanding job, and they are mentors. So I think if you gave the city a really better look, you will see that in our police department, in our fire department. By the way, that firing range is having to move it from one place to another. So it is a necessity. It is absolutely a necessity. And we wouldn't be able to do it.
And if I can add.
And then if they were to have to go somewhere else, like Camp Pelder, somewhere else, to have to do that and every year qualify, it would take time off of being in the community. But that's it. Thank you very much for your comments, and I'll certainly can think about what you said. Thanks. The meeting is adjourned to the next council meeting, which is next Wednesday, April 22nd. Meeting adjourned. Thank you.